RV owners, it's not a secret that most manufacturers cut quite a few corners when it comes to assembling their units, and there's a lot of different things in the industry that could be fixed. Today I'm going to show you one that is pretty common to find. Sometimes it's hidden away where you can't see it, and sometimes it's right in plain sight. And these are inexcusable corners that are being cut that you should just absolutely not allow. But if you guys keep continuing to buy units where they cut these corners and don't actually push back on them, then they're just going to continue doing it because you're not stopping them. Now, I talk about a lot of different corners that are cut in different ways that they could do things that wouldn't really cost them any extra money. Some things would cost extra money, and they probably pass that extra cost on to you, but it's completely worth it. And one of the best things is going to be wire pass-throughs. If you look at this one here, you can see where they just roughly cut a hole and pretty much made some razor sharp edges that are going to eventually just chafe through that wire. If you look over here at this one, that is currently, I mean, you still have the metal shavings here. This is super sharp, and you have 120 volt and 12 volt wiring coming through here that, as this thing bounces down the road, is just going to start cutting away at the wire. And it looks like some of that chafing has actually already begun there. And this is super common to see stuff like this. Now, a couple different ways they could have gone about this. They could have at least deburred that hole and added a grommet at each end so it can go through and not left it looking like that. Or quite simply, this wire that just passes through from there to there could have just been put in some kind of clamps that could have secured it to the framing there. Drilling through the framing wasn't even necessary, actually. So if anything, in this particular situation, they could have actually saved time not trying to drill through the framework and then leaving it sloppy like that, because it's not if, it's when that's going to be an issue. That is eventually going to chafe through that wiring, that little protective conduit they put over the outside. It's not going to help that. It's going to chafe through that wire. You'll often see the same thing where hydraulic hoses pass through. I find the same thing through the frames. I find it in the front compartments where hydraulic hoses are just sitting there chafing away at a roughly cut hole in the frame. I've replaced plenty of hydraulic lines that were split that were directly due to chafing along the frame or wherever they were gone through. You'll find this with many things that pass through framework or pass through different parts of walls. And sometimes, yeah, they put a little bit of foam, and here you can actually see they added some sheathing to the wire before it went through. That's at least somewhat acceptable. But at the end of the day, for the amount of money that you guys are spending on these RVs, they should be flawless. They should be absolutely flawless. Yeah, they're built by humans and there could be some human error, but with things like that, putting a grommet or just figuring out a different way to route it or adding some type of protection to the wires, hoses, plumbing that are going through those things, it's inexcusable. At the end of the day, a grommet or some form of protection for the plumbing or wiring that is passing through that hole costs them pennies and takes seconds to install. And just another tidbit there, looking at something like this passing through the frame of something you paid almost $200,000 for just doesn't really seem to scream quality. We won't even get into the whole using non-watertight connectors in areas outside the coach where they will definitely get road spray and get wet, because that's just a whole different conversation. And sure, some of these holes are cut a little bit cleaner than what that first one I showed you was, but it's still friction. These bounce down the road, these move all over the place, things move around. And it's not if, it's when those wires or pipes or tubes are going to be chewed up as you're bouncing this thing down the road. And odds are by the time that happens, you're going to be well out of warranty. It's up to you guys to start pushing back on these manufacturers to start correcting some of those little things on RVs that need to be changed. Cool, we've seen some big industry changes. We're moving to some more efficient air conditioners and all that fun stuff. But we can't forget about the little things that they're missing, because those little things are what end up adding up to create a miserable RV experience when you have a whole list of little tiny things that aren't working and are failing conveniently right after your warranty. If you guys want to see some more tech tips, tricks, and even some tours and RVs like these ones, make sure you guys are pressing that subscribe button.